And it says I'm live, so let's see what YouTube is actually going to do. All right, I'm going to talk as if nothing's wrong. There are a lot of people out there that have this mistaken impression that Boog is going to be this great and grand and wonderful thing. Yeah, no. What it's really going to look like is something out of Dawn of the Dead, at least the early scenes. Hey, troll. Um, Now, if you've seen at least the remake, which I never saw the original version, uh, it starts off very slow, and you hear background noise about a problem developing. Well, that was all of last summer. Let's talk about the um, later on. All right. So, if you're familiar with the movie, Anna's at the hospital. The doctor says, "Why am I getting an X-ray or a lab, something like that, over a bite at a bar fight?" You do. Well, that's what everybody's going to say. I do know. Why are we looking at some little riot? Um, as she's driving home, she's hearing about oh, evacuation centers, I think it was, that are overfull and sending people to other places. And this whole time, she's like, "Everything's fine here. I don't know what you're talking about." Um, and she keeps changing the channel until she gets to the music. She gets home and everything seems fine. Her neighbor's daughter is roller skating and demonstrates that she can roller skate backwards. That's cool, right? She's like 8 years old. That is actually pretty cool. And then the next morning, she wakes up. Half the neighborhood is on fire. One of her neighbors points a gun at her. Um, the girl from last night has just tried to kill it. Well, has just killed her husband, and he came back. It's absolute pandemonium and chaos. And that is what it's really going to look like. Now, we see a little bit of the reality of the you wake up and all of a sudden it is in your own birthing over last summer when the Shell station got burned to the ground. Very infamously, the owner of the station was standing there cleaning up, saying, "I was marching with you just last week." "Oh, we're sorry." No, you're not. You're not the least bit sorry. You're only sorry you got caught. All right. And she's sorry she helped you. Yeah, that is the truth. I don't care. You don't like it. I don't give a shit. Um, and that is what it's really going to look like. Now, to give you even larger scale, imagine being in the middle of all this. For those of you that have never been through an earthquake, it's pretty much devastation everywhere if it's a good one. I've been through like five of them. Um, and I never saw a single thing. But all you have to do is Google literally 1988, 1989 earthquake. You can see the devastation. There's whole neighborhoods that were flattened because of the rumbling alone. The Now add to this, uh, hey OT, uh, add to this the level of gang violence that we're. And I'm just going to say gang violence. A real Boog is going to look more like Sarajevo back in 96. I think it was 96 because I know I went in the guard in 99 as quickly as I could make certain documents disappear, uh, that prohibited me from even serving. So I think it was 96 when or yeah, 96 when the first mass graves were found. A real boog is going to look like Sarajevo, only worse. It's going to be a nationwide thing. Massacres will happen, and it's going to kind of work like this. Take any city in the United States, red, blue, purple. Me, I'm actually pretty purple to black because I don't really trust either side too much or at all. But pick a side, a city, a riot is going to a protest. It'll always start with a protest, something small. Oh, it's downtown. There's a bunch of people picketing about fill in the blank. They want more health care, or they want less health care, or they want you know a pony. They want a kitty. Excuse me. They want a puppy. They want a kitty. Um, and you'll think it's a nothing, and you can ignore it. Guilty. Right. When I first started hearing about the incidents of last summer, I thought, well, it's just a couple people with cameras getting in the cop's face. What's the big deal? The cops have nothing to hide. Well, it didn't matter that they had nothing to hide. It mattered that there was a problem brewing. Now, I'm not going to say you can't record cops. That's absolutely ridiculous. Um, but I am going to say that the problem that was the me changing the channel on in the car, dismissing it as a nothing. It got worse and worse. And if you don't know the incident from Wisconsin, well, catch me on Discord or email me. I'm reluctant to say too much about the incident from Wisconsin with the car lot because you know what YouTube will do. I probably said too much already, but you know what YouTube will do if I say any more. I am fingers crossed hoping that there's a certain person who witnessed those kinds of events firsthand to show up today. Her testimony will do a lot. I'm going to say that she was able to open her front window and see what was going on. Excuse me, the curtain to her front window. I remember as that was happening, I happened to be in Idaho at uh, my own little backup plan, thinking everything's fine here. Hadn't heard a thing because I was incommunicado. Um, and yeah, it just exploded. I get back to the real world, and I'm being told, um, literally, I mean, I'm just walked into civilization, and I'm told, oh yeah, by the way, up on, I think they call it Capitol Hill, not Capitol Hill, DC, but Capitol Hill on the opposite side of the country, there's a thing going on, and you should hear about it. Oh, and that night I actually went and checked it out, and I wish in retrospect I had live streamed that. That would have been what I saw was a man with what appeared to be an AK-47 standing guard in the middle of the street. Just right there. Oh, yeah, by the way, that particular type of weapon is completely banned in that state. It is not legal to own one. If I understand correctly, it's not even legal to own the lower receiver for one. The rest of the parts are fine. Can't have the lower receiver. Oh, okay. That's a bad sign. Okay. Troll said, I caught a Yiz stream. It was interesting. Yeah, Yiz is a very interesting individual. I don't agree with everything Yiz says, but very interesting. Um, and ladies and gentlemen, I think this is like the second time. OT is a friend of mine off of Discord who has been blessed, and I'm not even joking, to stay his particular region. Is very blessed to have been able to stay out of the craziness that I'm referring to from last summer. Um, Only his would have been a little bit worse. Um, Unfortunately, his leaders are a little bit, whole lot stronger than the leaders that just totally failed their people last summer. Now, Portland's mayor was literally encouraging all of this until literally they torched his house. Or did they just graffiti it? I can't remember now. It was months ago. Um, this is actually pretty much a call out to those that say, "Ooh, I want a Boog so bad." You need to be careful what you wish for because you might just get it. Here's what your life will really look like. It'll be the opening scenes of Dawn of the Dead for the next 2 weeks. There is no um, mall that's been closed overnight. There is no CJ. There is no, oh, what was the cop's name? Yeah, I don't think they ever actually said his name with the shotgun. There's nothing. You're going to be on the run 24/7 for at least 48 straight hours. Your best case scenario, if you're not armed, ironically enough, is that the boogers, yeah, I said it, boogers are going to stop you in the street and demand to know who you are and where you're going, what are you doing here. They're going to be treating this part of the city that your taxes help pay for, by the way, as their private property. Literally, you're going to be standing in the middle of the street. That's actually what started to happen to me last summer. I was like, nope, I'm not going in. The guy seemed really annoyed that I was hanging around. As long as I didn't cross the red line, he was content to leave me be. I also real first of all, I did have my gun on me. Second of all, I was content to understand that if I crossed that line, he was going to shoot first and ask questions later. Pretty sure he didn't recognize me. Partially because this was really grown. Go 2 weeks without a shave, and you will have something on your face. Um, and that is what your life will look like. 99% of the world. And I know there's certain people that I will not mention off the top of my head who have either been through it and they know how to get by now, or they're in a position where they can get through it if they're smart. 99% of the world is for them, or well, not quite for them. It's for the people that haven't been through it and don't know what to do. The people of the city of a certain city that had a takeover last summer. How to get out of this situation. All right. There are confirmed sociopaths like me, I know it, who can march to that, to the sounds of the guns. There are very well trained private citizens who can march to the sounds of the guns. And I'm thinking of three off the top of my head. One of them will probably see this later and be like, okay, Carrie, no problem. And I'm not doing it. And I don't blame him. He's got a family, he's got a wife, he's been out of the Corps for 4 years, I think he said at one point. Um, he owes nobody anything except his family. Um, he owes me exactly zero. We're not normal average people either. All right. Me, I got serious issues where I probably should try to hook up with somebody else who knows more than I do and can hold my leash. 'Cause I know me, I will get too close to the problem before I realize I'm there. And then I'm going to see one little thing and it's going to set me off. And now all of a sudden it started. Didn't matter who was right, didn't matter who was wrong. Just mattered that it started now. So yeah, I should probably try and hook up with Golf Tango or Foxtrot, November Foxtrot, and say, you know, here's my problem. I'm going to start a problem. So I need you to stop me from stopping a problem. Stop me from starting the problem. Um, and then there's the people we actually pay to go deal with these problems. Now, I don't know if y'all were paying attention last summer, but they didn't stop the problems about the people who are paid to stop these problems. Right. There is a hierarchy of leadership and there is a chain of command. The National Guard is supposed to put these sorts of problems down and end them. But they can't do shit if they're not told to go. That's not me speaking, right? I, if it were up to me, all they'd have to do is read a colonel and a sergeant major somewhere would have to read a piece of paper, a piece of paper, not a book, just one sheet that says, if these conditions are met, you can march and you don't have to wait for orders. Hey, it used to be that way back in 1918 during the San Francisco earthquake. California National Guard went right into San Francisco to restore order and help put out the fire. Um, they didn't wait for the governor to tell them to go, they just went. That isn't the rule anymore. That's way above my pay scale. Um, the governors are the first leadership of the National Guards, and the governors were refusing, flat out refusing to send National Guard. Even when the incidents of the takeover happened, that governor refused to do anything. He's refused to even allow investigations to find out how did this happen? Why did this happen? What what failure of leadership caused this situation to get to the point where it lasted, I think it was 8 weeks. What the hell, guys? All right. For those of you that are going to blame the president, there is a chain of leadership. And unfortunately, the president is not the only authority. Now, he could nationalize the National Guard and order them in, and that's happened before. In living memory, it happened in, I want to say, Mississippi, when the Supreme Court ordered the schools to open up to black students. The governor was calling the National Guard in to stop it, and Truman, I think it was Truman, said, "Oh, no, no, no. They also belong to me, and I'm going to nationalize them and order them to escort those children in." And literally, that's exactly what happened. Um, but if the governor is refusing to take action, president's hands are kind of tied. There comes a point where you got to say, no, 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 I'm doing it anyway. And that point was achieved rather quickly in one particular city when, oh no, that's Portland, where the mayor's house got destroyed. But yeah, when the first riot broke out and the governor did nothing, yeah, okay, maybe. The second one, what? By the third one, he should have just said, you know what, screw it. Call up all the National Guards and tell them you're activated and you're staying activated until this crisis blows over. There wouldn't have been a crisis to blow over at that point. There's nothing like men with M16s to make people without M16s suddenly decide this is not a good idea. A righteous man is steadfast before danger, but the wicked flee when no threat presents. Okay, I butchered that one, but it really is the same difference. The wicked were able to stand fast in these cities because they knew there was nothing to stop them. They knew they were wrong. They still know they're wrong, and they're still trying to make excuses. The righteous men, National Guard, who were just sent, who should have been sent in to restore order, couldn't do anything. They were not allowed. Troll, I'm very interested in what it was you're cooking. Moving on. Troll is saying someone bought his swamp, which is very confusing, but okay. I am old enough to remember the 1994, excuse me, 1992 riots. The National Guard was sent in that time, and anecdotal story is that the Marines were sent in. Now, under normal circumstances, this would have been illegal. There's some question about what the legalities of sending the Marines in to a domestic crisis are. But you notice I said under normal circumstances. These were not normal circumstances. They were actually allowed. And the anecdotal story from this is that a police officer was executing a warrant of some sort, had 3 or 4, 6, I don't know how many Marines with them, pulls up to this location where the warrant is to be executed, tells the Marines, cover me. Well, in police work, cover me means point your guns at that area. If you see something that's a threat, shoot. In the Marine Corps, cover me means open fire in that general direction so I can get up close to the targets. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be making that mistake a second time. Although, if it gets to that point, they might. um, and maybe shit will happen. That's going to be an unfortunate fact. That's also what should have happened last summer, at least with the takeover. Whether it was Marines or National Guard or regular Army, that's actually what should have happened is the police come up to the edge of the situation, tell the National Guard, military, whatever, um, cover me, and yeah, reclaim control of that city. Burritos. Um, I'm not sure why that didn't happen. A little bit about that city that I'm referring to that I won't say the name of. I'm very, very reluctant. We now know that there were murders. At least 6 bodies were recovered. There was at least one murder that happened very close to the edge of the riot zone. Paramedics refused to respond because it was not safe for them to go in. And I for one, don't blame them. Um, there is a true story out of the 94, I think it was. Oh, Norco shooting. For those of you that don't know, there was a bank robbery in North Hollywood that just went totally sideways. Police happened to get there before the 2 bank robbers escaped because they knew something was up already, so they were looking for this to happen. The first officer on scene was shot. Second officer on scene was shot. And the third officer on scene was shot. And that's just the first 30 seconds. The third officer who was on scene was completely exposed. He was lying in the middle of the street. They could not recover him. Someone somewhere got the bright idea of hijacking a police officer. Somewhere got the bright idea of hijacking with permission, commandeering an armored bank vehicle, bank van. They drove that up to cover the approach so that they could recover the wounded officers in the plural. And there's actual radio broadcasts that I've listened to. The one officer saying, "I'm bleeding, I'm bleeding, I'm dying," as he's hiding behind a tree because that's the only cover he had. Um, Troll, I saw that. I'll get to it in a minute. The the rest of that scene, that incident, went pretty much the same way until somebody finally shot one of the guys in the foot, and the other did something I can't say on YouTube, but I can say that there was not going to be a trial, and that was uh, broadcast live. You might be able to find it on YouTube, but pretty sure they shut those videos down. Okay, Troll, Great Sky Troll Anti-Drama asks or says, so private entity is a problem? I'm not even sure what that is. I think it's a question. And if it is, no. No, you have an obligation to defend your own life You have an obligation to everyone else to defend your own life to the best of your ability. I have an obligation to you, whether it's you watching live or you who are going to be watching the replay later, or you who is downloading it and watching it on your cell phone at work. I have an obligation to you to defend my life to the best of my ability. The situation in North Hollywood would have been very difficult for me to defend my life against because he had the police, he had SWAT team. They had SWAT teams outgunned and out equipped. The equipment that they used was extremely, extremely unlikely to be seen for most people, but there's no reason it can't be replicated. And at least one complete set is at FBI headquarters in their museum. Okay, a minute ago, Troll said, so private entity is a problem, and now he's saying that Google blocked his comments. So that's a big, big problem. It means I have no idea what he was really saying or what he meant by it. And the fact that they didn't let me see it, they didn't even let me see it. Never mind you guys. I was not allowed to watch it or to see the comment. So I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. Thanks a lot, YouTube. You created all this drama for nothing. Thanks. All right, let's move on. Here's a nightmare scenario. The events of last summer, amplified by small teams, replicating the North Hollywood bank robbers. Will it be a perfect replication? No. Excuse me. Like I said, they use some very sophisticated, specialized equipment that they made themselves. Um, Out of other equipment that's commonly available, but it would take, excuse me, so much effort to replicate it. Well, not only would most people not bother, but one of the two guys involved, they had two sets of this specialized equipment. Being careful about what I say on YouTube because YouTube's being an ass about this sort of shit right now. Um, the uh, the one guy spent a lot of time and effort on making his perfectly and beautifully and everything else. The other guy just sort of threw it together. He didn't give a shit. Well, if he didn't give a shit and he knew his life actually depended on this, rioters will care even less. Now, me, I would give a big, big shit, except we're talking about 5,000 plus dollars in equipment, materials, excuse me. Okay. Um, Troll's telling me that Google blocked his comment about his swamp being bought, which confuses me even more because I did see it. Troll, was your swamp for sale? I I don't even know what happened here. The last I knew, you were getting ready to turn it into a specialized farm. And he thinks Bill Gates personally stepped down from his throne to block that comment. May not be wrong. Probably not. But. So now he's looking at new property elsewhere. Actually, sounds a little bit smaller, but overall, I think he'll be in a much better position. Troy, email me later. Uh, I got something you might be interested in related to your new your new plan. He thinks Bill Gates bought his swamp. I doubt that. Bill Gates does not own dirt of his own. Um, he owns it through front companies. Dr. Catmilk, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Doc here. I know him from Discord. How did you find in here? But welcome. Uh, when the doc goes back and watches the last 30 minutes, I think it is. Yeah, 30 minutes. He'll recognize some of the names I didn't quite drop. Tell him I said I'm sorry and hi. Um, Doc, I was talking about what the Boog will look like. Our at least two mutual friends are guys that could handle it. Our two mutual friends are also amongst the people I would really go looking for and say, hey, hold my leash. I know I'm going to be the problem. No problem, Carrie. You're driving. And that's the only thing we'll let you do. Um, and Troll has clarified what he thinks happened with the with his farm. And that is some rank ass. Mm, that's uh, that's pretty messed up. On a related note, people like Bill Gates and other names that you could drop here, they don't own any dirt of their own. They own corporations. Corporations buy dirt. There's a certain Voldemort that, well, Voldemort by YouTube standards, who terminated any future investigations into his activities while in custody because two guards supposedly weren't doing their job. You know who I mean. Um, and don't say it in the chat, please, especially you, troll. I know you're going to want to say it. Um, okay. His job, his job was to set up the front company for people like Gates and certain others. Unfortunately, he decided to sample a little bit more of the product than he was authorized to sample, and in ways that he was not authorized to sample it. And now they're out several billions of dollars and they're mad. And that's the real reason he's not around to testify. First of all, he wasted their money and they're mad about that. And second of all, he deeply exposed their operation and they're really mad about that. Okay, Troll is correcting me. The place he's looking at is a lot smaller. It's not that much, is it? About 30%? But and the old place that he was setting up, they paid 30% over asking. So wow, somebody really wanted that spot. Somebody wanted that spot very, very badly. And that's some rank ass bullshit. You can't make an offer on property while it's in negotiation, right? That's illegal. And Troll's explaining how that went down. And oh, well, your neighbor committed a tortious act. Good luck on suing him, though. Dr. Catmilk is informing us that he is a brewer. Doc, I'm going to catch you on Discord later. Um, I got some questions related to that. And well, he's also telling us he can keep things running. A real Boog is going to look like a scene out of Dawn of the Dead, which I've only said like 5 times. This is mostly for the sake of new arrivals. Um, and how many times have I said, these videos are not for the sake of people like me. Hi, bunny. Oh, sorry. It's not for the sake of people like me or me and Dr. Catmilk's mutual acquaintances, or even sort of Troll's sake. Um, Troll has someplace to go. Good for him. Um, this is for the sake of those of you who are not, you don't have the skill set to handle this crisis. You don't have the place to go to, and you don't have a plan. The things to watch out for is it doesn't sound, it's not a normal thing. Um, I live in a not incorporated community just outside of Reno. This is like old information, right? Hey, thanks for the history lesson, Carrie. Um, excuse me. I have some place to go to. I have enough skill sets to help somebody who does know better how to handle this kind of situation. Even for me, the best plan is to evacuate and then link up later. But in the meantime, for me, hearing about a shooting in Reno, nothing. I don't even notice. Hell, I can hear the shots from my front porch sometimes. All right. If I hear shots from my back porch, everything's fine. That's just the hunters or the whatever back there. If I hear it from the front porch, and usually like 4 or 5 shots, very, very rapid succession, that's Reno. Okay, no problem, right? Oh, it's when you start to hear things that are not normal, like hearing about a protest in Reno would be a major red flag for me. Okay, it's time to go to the hotel. There is actually a hotel on the other side of the California border that I can check into like 40 minutes from work. Okay, fine. I have to drive 40 minutes. And if everything blows over and it's all good, I can just come back home after staying at that hotel for a week. If everything's not okay, I'm still at the hotel on the other side of the border. 40 minutes walking distance or driving distance, that's a long time walking. I can also just close and lock my front door and stay there for a week. Because my little neighborhood, basically, we're all a little bit different around here. We're expecting that kind of problem. a lot more ready for it. Um, and I don't want to talk about how ready, but in theory, the whole rest of the world could collapse. And as long as we don't get bombed, we'll be okay. On a related note, a true boog, the direction that the city that my Voldemortish city right now, um, it really should have looked like something out of, well, it should have looked right now like Dresden in 43. For those of you with less history knowledge than me, and I believe it was 1943, the city of Dresden, Germany, absolutely pristine, had not been touched by the war. The Anglo Americans wanted Germany to take a hint at what this war was going to look like. So they bombed the city for 48 straight hours. Or was it 24 straight hours? Damn it, I should always check my notes on these things before the stream. Either way, they bombed it all day and all night. And they didn't just use the big concussive high explosive bombs. No, no, no. They used the incendiaries. I believe, as a matter of fact, the British mission was specifically incendiaries only. 90% of the city was destroyed. There's film footage that's been converted to video of what that city looked like. There is no one building intact. It doesn't exist. There's no building with its top deck still intact. That doesn't exist either. That is how comprehensively destroyed the city was. They know that the population was reduced by about 50% based on how many people were here before the bombing versus how many people are here after the bombing. They have never been able to account for about 2/3 of those people. It's generally believed that the remains, the bodies, were either incinerated so completely as to be unidentifiable as human, or were blown into pieces about yay big that could never be identified. That is how seriously destroyed the city was. Now, add to that the real danger of shootings. Because, and I'm going to say, I'm not sure how a mass shooting didn't happen last summer in the one city, in the takeover. I still don't understand. There was a drive-by. We know about that. But a coordinated mass shooting of anybody who didn't decide to toe the line. There was even a taxation scheme. Went like this. Everybody who was inside of the autonomous zone was ordered to disassociate with the city government. I think the city government, I know the state and federal government, and pay their taxes directly to the autonomous zone from here on out. Um, and literally, that was their plan. Okay, I'm going to catch up with chat real quick. Troll asked how Buckle's doing. Did I miss anything? Uh, okay, Troll is also commenting about his new target site. I would treat the water twice before using it. Dr. Catmilk says, my wife is from the city and was concerned with the shotgun popping off for hours on end. Local gun clubs just over the ridge. It's always fun to hear her family ask if it's normal to hear gunshots. Doc, I'm going to ask you about that later on Discord. And Doc says, either way, it was a parking lot after the fire tornadoes. I assume he's referring to Dresden. I hope he's referring to Dresden. And no, that was not even a parking lot. There was rubble from destroyed buildings literally blocking roads. You can't park on rubble. Not like that anyway. You also couldn't drive over those in a tank. And that's what a true Boog city will look like. Now, not to be the Debbie Downer, uh, for those of you that want this Boog so badly, it's very important to understand. Yeah, your actions may be justifiable, but you need to make sure that your actions are actually justifiable. They say that liberty is built on three boxes: the soapbox, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. Now they forgot one. The jury box is actually number three. The soapbox, well, this is YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. This video is actually going to be private within an hour or so of it being up for the obvious reasons. I'll put it over on this shoot. Don't worry about that part. The soapbox is being burned while we stand on it. And it's not just YouTube. It's not just Fascist Book. It's not even just Twitter, although of those three, Twitter is by far and beyond the worst. And it's not even Reddit, though by far and beyond, Reddit is also the absolute worst of the worst of the worst. Even the supposedly free speech platforms are kind of getting restrictive about what they'll let you talk about. Gab and Parler are not as bad, but they're not perfect either. Actually, Dr. Catmilk might be familiar with this. Angel of Verdun was banned on Instagram, I think just last night, or just, well, I heard about it last night. And I shit you not, Angel of Verdun was a U.S. Army infantry officer. She was sent to Korea at one point. This part I know, and that's about all I know. I never asked her how long she was in the service because she didn't volunteer the information, and it's actually none of my business. But my experience with the Coast Guard tells me that she at least made captain before she got out. And if somebody can tell me she got up to a star or two, I'm not in a position to argue. Right. She was not a rear echelon officer. She was infantry. All she did was demonstrate one of the things that she actually did in her nation service. She demonstrated how to swap mags on a gun. That's it. All right. This is something she did because her nation asked her to do it at one point. So she's telling the rest of us how she did her job. That'd be like me doing a splicing video. That was your taxpayer dollars at work too, right? She was banned on Instagram for that. And don't give me this context crap. Everybody knows that Angel was an Army officer that It's part of the video, first of all, that got her banned. Second of all, that's part of her personal information that she's put out to everybody. Don't tell me the context matters here. That's an absolute cop out. She was banned for that. Okay, that seems legit. I won't be doing any more splicing videos, by the way. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm gonna catch up with chat here. Still hoping that my acquaintance shows up. Buckle Bunny asks, did you hear the latest, the flag thing? No, and I'm afraid to ask, but it's too late now. Troll says, if I'm not buying my family farm back, then I can live anywhere. I'd live, I'd like a creek, a swamp, pond, or river lakefront. Access to water. And won't cost me $500,000 either. Budget. Buckle says, I'm flying my flag no matter the size. My family is military family, and I'm flying my beautiful flag. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is not in Doc, you can tell Trey I said this. This is not my service flag. Probably flip it around so you can see it properly. This is not just my service flag. This is my church, right? This is my flag. I served under this. And I'll be goddamned if you're going to tell me I got to take this down. I'll put up a bigger one. First, I got to find a bigger one. But I can put up a cutter size version before I take this down. Fly a military flag. I only have one regret about my military career, and I wish I had done a different service first and then switched over. Tuba followed that track line. And Doc is asking about the thing that got Ashley banned. Yeah. Really? Yeah, really. They burned the witch? Did not know that Ashley was a witch. I knew she was well, I mean, judge not lest ye be judged yourself, and by the measure that ye judge, so shall ye be judged. Go ahead and judge me here. We're both trench rats. I'm okay with that. My language is actually worse than hers usually, but she'll drop an F-bomb, no problem. By the way, trench rat is a term I use to refer to those of us who were a little too plain spoken or fucking vulgar as shit. And that's also why my channel will never be not monetized, no matter if it's an option or not. But yeah, she was banned for a mag swap. And don't give me this context matters crap because I'm not. I'm not buying it. That's like saying I can't demonstrate splicing or Papa Carey can't demonstrate how to bandage wounds. Papa Carey's medical training was from 1970s, so it's kind of relevant. I goddamn guarantee you, if Papa carries this demonstrating it, I'm gonna at least sit down, shut up, and listen because there's a whole lot of Marines that got home from Vietnam because of him. Not one or two, it's like 20 plus, not just from trench foot or jock itch or something. No, I won't get into details too much, but um, there's only a few that he couldn't help. And knowing what I know of the circumstances of those, there was nothing he could have done to begin with. And there it is. Sorry, Dad. That's the truth. Um, Back to the original rant. We're about halfway through now, so I think my guest is not going to make it. I gotta take the Voldemort off. I'm talking about Seattle from last summer. Um, if you think that that's all the worst it's going to get, no. Imagine it starting as the Chaz. Here's the problem. Um, First of all, it's going to be everywhere. Like, we know Reno's going to fall. That's part of the reason why we started cooperating amongst ourselves and doing some things that I'm not sure. We did not commit any felonies, but I know we committed several misdemeanors, as several infractions related to purchasing and arranging of generators and related equipment. That's all I should probably say. Um, and I'm okay with that. Now imagine the Chaz literally every city in the US. And now imagine that you're trying to get out of there. It's worse for you right wingers who think that the Boog is such a great idea and you want to do it now. It's not like they don't know who you are. All right. You're not going to get out of the city without somebody saying, "Who? Oh, hi, Leo. I remember you from 2 weeks ago." It's not like they don't know who you are. And they're going to say, "Oh, there goes Kerry. We know he's a right winger." Or there goes Joe. There goes Joe. He's one of those right wing Trump supporters. And they are going to target you. You got your family with you. You may or may not be armed. If you are, you're barely armed enough to take on five at a time. They don't hunt in packs of five, they hunt in packs of 50. And if you don't believe me, ask Andy No. Um, they may not necessarily know where you are at any given time, but they have a pretty good idea what neighborhood you live in. They don't know what neighborhood you specifically live in. They'll know which neighborhoods they saw a whole bunch of Trump flags on. If you think they won't burn a whole neighborhood to the ground just to get one person, you're sadly mistaken. Hell, the U.S. U.S. Army Air Force burned a whole city to the ground and didn't think twice about it. And that's one of the problems with this situation is these people think that they're in the right. They're not. That's not the point here. They think they're in the right. They think they're doing God's work or some shit like that. They think they're absolved of their sins. And it doesn't matter what the sin was. In their own mind, they were absolved the moment they woke up that morning. They, in their own minds, could rape people and get away with it. And if you think I'm joking, go ask Caitlin Bennett. She actually had to show that guy his own words for him to finally admit, oh, yeah, I guess I did say that. He was so comfortable with saying it that it didn't even occur to him he'd said it. And there we go. Troll says, oh, my swamp island is on my pop's property. Oh, Troll is talking about a very old construction project, and you guys know how I am about self-doxing, so sorry, Troll. Um, and Buckles said, that's an old ass bridge. She's right. Um, Leo says, I hope we are having a good day. And everybody's saying hi to Leo. And I know I invited Leo to come back. I think he was trying to get my goat last time, and maybe a little bit, but not enough to kick you out. It takes a lot to get thrown out of this bar. All right. Um, Pretty sure Troll knows, or Troll can testify. We're talking three people so far. Leo is asking, when will Yiz be back on the show? When Yiz feels like being back. All right. Yiz does not answer to me. And Yiz did me a huge favor coming on last time. So thank you. um, it's a universal fact. Live streaming is always easier when you have a guest. Um, but Yiz is welcome literally anytime Yiz wants in. Troll's talking about the bridge that's so old. Yeah, Alexander the Great turned some island, Tyre, Tyre, yes, turned Tyre into an isthmus by building part of a bridge, using that to dump fill into the Caspian Sea, I think it was, building more bridge and using that to dump more fill into the Caspian Sea until he built a land bridge all the way out to the island of Tyre and then took the city. I'm just saying. Um, there's some comments I don't need to read. Moving on. The whole point of this live stream, for those of you that are talking, bragging, blowing smoke out your ass about how much you want the Boog to start, you're an idiot. Damn it. I swore to myself I wasn't going to say that. Um, but yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. They think that this is some great grand thing, that they're so tough and hard and they're gonna handle it. No, no. Um, you're gonna be 1 on 50, maybe 2 on 50. You're not gonna last. You're not gonna survive. There are people like me that will be able to escape because our understanding of the nature of the world, first thing you do when there's a problem, evacuate and then come back later. Now, there's people like me who are, by their own admission, um, not normal. Uh, now, I admit I need somebody to hold my leash, which is why I will probably be restricted to driver roles. Um, and I'm okay with that. Because of his age and medical issues, Papa Carey probably would be restricted to a driver role too. Personally, I'd rather he just go up to the lake house and take his dog and a big, big case of split pea soup, because that dog loves split pea soup. That dog is very, very weird. And ride it out and leave people like me to deal with the problem. Oh, thank you, Buckle. Do please hit the like button. Even if you hate, listen, I don't care if you hate me. I don't even like myself, right? I'd hate me too if I were you. Well, I do hate me, but that's not the point here. But at least like the stream for the sake of other people who need to hear this message as well. It's kind of that simple. Um, Troll says he doesn't want any violence. He also doesn't want neighbors. There's an old saying about, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go in a group. The larger your group is, the further you will go. Leo says shopping sprees, movie nights, romantic dinners. Oh, I didn't need to read that. Um, Leo, I don't know how to tell you this, but Bunny's married. Um, Matter of fact, I think she's been married 20 years now, 15, something like that. And several people now, Leo, behave. Several people now have compared it to a rat race. No, rats at least have some sort of rule. It's a rule of strength and a rule of um, dominance. All right. The bigger the rat is, the bigger his rulership is. This doesn't even work that way. It is complete and total anarchy and chaos. The Chaz should have devolved into a five-way internal gang war. Why it didn't is kind of a mystery. The fact that they maybe were united by a bigger threat outside the gates. Oh, the fact that they were maybe united by a bigger threat outside the gates, the entire city of Seattle, the National Guard, um, everybody else on Earth who realized how ridiculous they were, that might have been part of it. But and we do know that there was violence inside. There were at least 6 confirmed murders. And we don't know. We still don't know how many rapes there were. Mostly because a lot of them have never been reported to this day. Simple as that. The six bodies or the six murders only represents the six bodies that were found afterwards. That's probably the people that died in the last day or so before they were able to get rid of the body. You'd be surprised how fast they can go away in a sewage system. Troll says he's watching the socialist nightmare come to pass before my eyes. I'm telling y'all how old I really am when I can say with a straight face I remember hearing about President Carter. I was very, very little, and I didn't understand what president meant yet. At least I don't think I did, but I remember hearing about it. And I remember hearing, oh, well, I remember hearing the opening music to uh, Nightline. I think do 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 that one, and knowing that that was time to go to bed, and mom and dad are both yelling at us about go to bed, and mom is upset and dad is mad. Well, because we're not going to bed fast enough. No, it's because they were trying to shield us from what was going on at the time. So I'm easily old enough to remember the fall apart, the collapse of Romania. I'm easily old enough to remember the collapse of Russia. I'm more than just old enough to remember Tiananmen Square. What went wrong with Tiananmen Square is it was just in the one neighborhood, basically. Um, what went wrong, really, in Romania is as the situation blew up, everybody went kind of a little bit wilding. And I know I shouldn't say that word. I know they say that there's no such thing, but yeah, actually there is. And it's because literally everybody hated Ceausescu so much that the only thing they wanted now was him dead. And that wasn't even really a trial. That was more of a, a prop. I can't even really call it a trial or a play. It was more of a prop, just so that they can say, well, we held a trial. Matter of fact, and I swear I spent years thinking that the way they executed him was the Mussolini method. A couple of years ago, when I went back to check and make sure that I was thinking of Ceausescu being hung from a lamppost. Well, yeah, they executed him. No, they shot him in the back of the Parliament building. Oh, he got a firing squad. My bad. Oh, and what went right in Russia was it was just coast to coast, and they completely overwhelmed the Russian army's ability to respond. You can't kill everyone. I think I've said that before. That is the actual socialist nightmare, to have the circumstances where that can happen. And Ceausescu paid with his life. Leo says everything Biden says his handlers do the opposite. Starting to think he is an okay puppet. Okay puppet? But you know, he was always a puppet, right? It's whose puppet? And for 6, something like that, years ago when he volunteered for this mission. Most people don't understand presidential campaigns, they're planned 2, 3 campaigns in advance. All right. Donnie is one of those weird ones where, at least as far as anybody knows, he threw his hat in the ring. What was it, 6 months before the primaries? 8 months? Um, Nobody had heard anything about him actually running until the last couple of months before he entered. And that's kind of what they're all butthurt about. They didn't expect him to run. And when he did start, they thought, well, he's not part of the plan. He can't win. And then he won. And I can say this as somebody who, in I think March, April, May-ish of 2016, was saying, okay, enough with the joke. The joke's gone on long enough. Maybe it was June. Oh, troll, I gotta take that comment out. Sorry, bro. I agree. I will read it. Enough of it for you to understand what it was that was said. Um, how do I put this without hitting the report box? The way in which the Georgia elections evolved, which we all know what happened, has convinced Troll that maybe Georgia is not the paradise that he thought it was. Um, and he's planning on rebuilding. Leo, enough with those comments. Okay, Buckle Bunny. Um, Actually, she's much younger than anybody else in here. So, Jimmy Carter is a former president of the United States. Um, he's probably the last actual Democrat to have ever even looked at the White House, let alone lived there. Joel says he's got to take care of some duties. And Leo, and I can read this out loud. If you want to find out who runs the USA, look up the Open Society Foundation and why George Soros donated over $32 billion as a tax write-off. Yeah, he, that happened. It's actually worse than that. You want to know who really runs the United States? Find out who's donated money to George Soros. Give you a hint. It was in Business Insider. Um, it's the four-letter I word that if I say it again, I'm 75% chance of being in trouble. But if you're following this channel, you probably know who I think is responsible for the pandemic starting. Not going to take away China's blame for lying about it and for not dealing with it appropriately. But there you go. Where did George get his money, Bunny? how do I put this without four-letter word, four-letter country that starts with I and is not Iraq, but had a whole lot to do with how Iraq went down. If I were doing a video just about the Iraq war, I'd be fine. And I know I'd be fine because I've done that before, not as comprehensively. And yes, Buckle Bunny, look up Open Society Foundation and see where they've given money. But that only tells you who's downline from George. His upline is somebody else, and you need to be very, very afraid of them. Troll is trying to blame Nazi gold for George's rise. No, no, he just learned the skills with the Nazi gold. And by the way, this is not conspiracy theory. This is not shit posting, right? George Soros himself, in a 60 Minutes interview, told Mike Wallace that he had worked for the Nazis. I didn't say he was an actual Nazi himself. Maybe he said that. I never caught it. He said he worked for them. Huge difference. He was also about 14 at the time, so he could not have been a member of the SS. I can't say that word on YouTube. He was not a member of the SS. The um, the Hitler Youth, maybe. I don't think he's ever denied that. He hasn't, to my knowledge. And saying somebody was a member of the Hitler Youth, either the male or the female part of the Hitler Youth back then, that's not saying anything, right? That's like saying you lived in Germany at the time. Either you were part of the Hitler Youth at that age, or you were in a camp. That's pretty much it. Um, so yeah, that's not saying anything, but he did um, accounting type work. Apparently, he was counting money for them. There's a lot of people that can say that. That's not even a secret. He admitted to that on 60 Minutes. And it's not like he brags about it, but he doesn't make apologies. Buckle Bunny says, now it makes sense him trying to overthrow our government. I get it now. Actually, no. He's not trying to overthrow our government. He's a weaseling, uh, sniveling, a prostrating little worker bee, right? You see this great, powerful titan man who controls billions of dollars. I see a sniveling little 14-year-old who is begging for his life at 80 something. Yeah, I think he's in his 80s. Oh, no, no, no. He's in his 90s now. Anyway, however old he is, he's a sniveling little slave boy who's still begging for his life. He has his masters. He knows who they are, and he's afraid of them. He's not afraid of me because he knows what am I going to do? A drive-by? That's a joke. And it's not even a good joke. It's more of a sad joke. Um, he knows I can never touch him. He knows there's nation states that will never be able to touch him because he knows things that they don't want the world to know. I'm sure he knows things about the US government that our government would never want the world to know. And you know what? Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Just come out and say what you did. George was smart. He came out and said what he did back in the 1930s and 40s. That is a smart slave. Um, but he is. He's just a slave for somebody else. I dare you to find anybody who has ever called George Soros anything but a powerful and strong and brave or whatever else you can think of. Man, I'm the only one who'll come out and say he's a sniveling little 14-year-old who's still begging for his life. Um, damn it. I'm in trouble now. I know I shouldn't have said that. How dare I tell the truth? Moving on. All right. Coming up on minute 30 now. So for those of you who are running at 2 times speed, hi, stop. Run at normal speed for a moment. Okay. The road to a justifiable boogaloo. Last summer's events was not the first boogaloo in US history. The first one was the American Revolution. Most people don't realize this that's exactly what it was. Um, it didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Uh, uh, Benjamin Franklin and Samuel Adams and the rest, they didn't just wake up one morning and say, let's go start a country. First of all, it was 12 years of problems in the past. Maybe a little bit more. I forget now. It had started with a totally ridiculously tiny problem, a tax that was new to these people. They were being a tax was imposed upon them that they weren't prepared for. That's it. They turned to the King of England and said, "Hey, hold up a second. You put this new tax on us. We weren't ready for this. This came out of the blue. At least tell us where the money's going." Not only did the King of England not do that, but he put these representatives in Newgate prison. Um, Here in the US, any prison that would even begin to match the conditions in Newgate prison would be considered criminally deplorable. And everyone responsible for that would be in their own prison by the end of the month. Um, it gets worse. The founding, the people who would eventually become the founding fathers, and some others, some of them ended up as Tories, by the way, turned to the King of England and said, "Hey, give us our man back, first of all. And second of all, you're going to tax us. We want some say in how this money's spent." This is the escalation process. They went from just asking to saying how they wanted it spent, and the King of England didn't take a hint, put the new representatives in prison as well. That's exactly how you don't handle a redress of grievances. That's exactly how you don't handle a grievance. But it gets worse. There's this back and forth of trying to get answers in resolutions, and Britain actually responding in the exact opposite. The people of the colonies don't like these taxes. I'm going to station more troops there because I have them coming off the war with France. I need to keep them gainfully employed anyway, so I'm going to put them in North America where these people are agitating and causing trouble. Wait, listen to that again. You're going to put more troops into this situation with these people already pissed off. You're going to double down on it? And it kept getting worse from there. Oh, not only did he send more troops, but he added more taxes. Now these colonials, they're getting mad. They've tried the soap box. There is no ballot box for them. They don't have a ballot. They actually tried the jury box. Um, the so-called the incident in Boston that some people refer to as a massacre. First of all, it was not a massacre. It was a shooting, and it was a 75% justifiable shooting. The 25% represents three of the men who opened fire of six, and they were found not guilty of murder. They were found guilty of manslaughter. I'm not going to second guess the jury right now without the facts in front of me, but I do remember writing a paper on this and questioning the jury decision. All of this, however, is going for absolute naught. The King of England does not care. He can do whatever he wants. And oh, by the way, he has his army there. For those of you that talk about government tyranny, you need to look up the word tyranny, first of all. Tyranny means rule by force or fear. And that is what uh, King George was capable of. In fact, that's the only thing he had. He had the army there to shoot anybody that questioned his dominion. And that's all he could do. He couldn't fight with the laws because he was, first of all, he was up against a sometimes hostile parliament. So he couldn't just do whatever he wanted, but he would do whatever he could get away with. And at the end of the day, he needed men with guns to make sure that what he said went. He was a dictator. And this is an absolute truth because if he was punishing the American colonies, Parliament would usually tell it's those troublemakers again. Go ahead and punish them. But don't you dare punish India because they've gotten with the program. They're good children. And that's an actual thing. Uh, Usually the same members of the British Parliament who were saying don't punish India or Australia, Nepal, or those other colonies that weren't as troublesome as we were, they had financial stakes. Um, and it was basically pick the worst of our children, whip him, and the others will get in line. Well, the really problem child, the Americans, decided not to take the whipping lying down. And some of us were terrorists. There's one out of it's not New York. It wasn't Massachusetts. Vermont. There was one, he was a ship owner who decided to go a pirate. I'm not even joking. He turned his ship into a pirate ship. And I didn't say privateer, I said pirate. Unfortunately, that's when the cartridge box was opened. That's been awful quiet for a moment. Am I missing something? That's a good sign. That's a bad sign. Okay. Well, I'm going to continue on as if nothing else has happened. Um, Colonials tried the soapbox, and they had it burned from underneath them. They didn't have a ballot box. They sent representatives who were then summarily imprisoned. They tried the jury box. That didn't get very damn far. Then they opened the cartridge box. Okay, so I know that they didn't yeet the the stream. Just everybody was being quiet. Um, and unfortunately, you do need to think about this. Have you tried the soapbox? Well, we're trying the soapbox, and we're seeing the soapbox is being burned from underneath us again. Okay, granted, there's Gab and Parlor um, that are mostly open. The big three are all being burned around us. I'm already planning for this one to be burned, so I'm planning to deal with my soapbox being burned. The next step is the ballot box. I don't need to say anything more about that. You know what happened. I know what happened. We need to prove it, which we can't because we tried the jury box too, and the jury box was closed. Okay. Now, just because I've gone over this list and said these have been done or these have been addressed does not mean open the cartridge box, right? Another very important detail, and this is something the founding fathers got right, the founders got right. They did not open the cartridge box first. Set um, Boston aside for a second, because what happened in Boston, objectively speaking, was not a massacre. It was a justifiable shooting. Police officer in that same situation today would not go to prison. Okay, great. Good for you. Don't flash forward to Lexington and Concord. The British opened the cartridge, opened our cartridge box for us. Little known secret of that time frame. The American colonial militia, which would be the equivalent of the National Guard today, not the militia, but the actual National Guard. These were paid, part-time, trained soldiers. And George Washington led one such company, paid for one such company as well. Um, but they were absolutely beholden to the governors. They had a uh, fort, I want to say this was in New Jersey or New York. The British Army went into that fort and took control of the fort because this is the real army now showing up to relieve the National Guard, by analogy. right? Well, they're there for 4, 6, 8 months. And one day somebody's doing an inventory of this fort, and 4 cannons are missing. The March on Lexington and Concord had much more to do with getting those 4 guns back than anything else. The British Army was in, first of all, they were embarrassed. They'd lost control of one of what should have been their guns now. Who got them? When were they taken? Is still kind of a mystery. And Lexington Concord was part of trying to get one of those guns back. This is something that neither side wanted to talk about because there was actually another battle before that where Minutemen, excuse me, faced off with redcoats, and they got their asses handed to them. The guns were never recovered. They opened our cartridge box for us when they confiscated those cannons. And it's really a simple math. Those cannons were paid for by the people of the state of New York, and specifically that county, I believe it is. I think it's a county, to defend them against Indian attacks. And now the British Army have taken them and are preventing us from using our guns to defend ourselves. That opened the cartridge box. Okay. Buckle says, my dad's ancestors came here to America in 1636. That's way back. My mom's family got run back to Canada because they were still subjects of the Queen. Which Queen? George was a king during the American Revolution, so I'm kind of lost there. Um, and I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping it up here. The takeaways from this: if you think you want a boog, you're an idiot. You are an actual idiot. Um, if you plan to start one, you're an even bigger idiot than you thought you were. If you're absolutely insistent on this, you better make sure that you have a very, very well documented history of why. Britain still sees the American Revolution as the minor dust up. We see it as this big deal. But the historians, remember I'm a historian, can also go back and look at that and say, wait a second, no, there's a bunch of things here that we need to talk about. People did some things that they shouldn't have done. You need to be able to look back because even in the immediate aftermath, and I'm caught that bunny. I'll address that in a second. Even the immediate aftermath, those of you that boog will face terrorism charges. Yeah, that's going to happen. Now, whether you survive that trial or not depends on how closely you heed these words. Bunny's corrected and said, well, the king. At the end of the American Revolution, a lot of former patriots were facing their own trials, not for the things that they did right, things they did wrong. Like that ship owner who went pirate. Yeah. What he did was actually a crime, even by post-revolutionary law. He only got away with it because he did it under the British crown rather than the American flag. Leo says they went, oh, that shit. Buckle Money asks, don't they call England the motherland? I don't know. I think it's mother country. I think I've heard that term. Um, oh, I'm sorry. Leo asked, can't believe UK is still loyal to the royal family. It's complicated. It really is. They agent from the colonizing nations to giving their lands to foreigners and simping. Queen Elizabeth destroyed her family legacy. No, that was Charles. And Elizabeth is holding on just long enough to make sure Charles doesn't take the throne. Uh, she's going to hand over probably, I think, to William. She's going to hand the throne over to William and literally die that afternoon. Um, that's the only thing she's holding on to. And hopefully William will restore some dignity to the throne. Um, the royals are the heads of state, and they do have some political power. Parliament holds most of it. Um, they're more like a president of the Senate role here in the U.S. It's very, very difficult for them to do anything. They can do pretty much nothing on their own, but when they can get Parliament headed in the right direction for their purposes, they can get some things done. Thank you, Buckle. I appreciate the thought. Oh, tell Drew if you talk to him before I do. I'm sorry. I'm up at 0400 and I'm basically walking in the door when he goes on. Um, all right. I'm gonna wrap it up there. Again, 90% of you just need to listen to this part. As you start to hear that there's a problem brewing, get up, get out of town, go to a hotel for as much as a week if you have to, because the only thing you can do by staying is make it worse. People like me who have limited skill set and some personal issues will make it worse too. Um, y'all saw Dr. Catmilk earlier. He and I have a couple of mutual acquaintances who could actually make things better, and I want to believe that the two of them are wise enough to know that for right now, I need to just take care of my own family, and then I can come back and deal with this problem. And if Carrie happens to be there, well, one of them I would hand my leash to in a heartbeat. Leo says, I'm getting out of Cali and headed to Reno when shit hits the fan. Catch me on Discord. We'll talk. Um, okay. I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. It is a couple minutes early. Please, for God's sakes, don't don't start a boog. You'll just make it worse. Keep calm, mandatory carry on.